Vote Chori. That's what India's largest opposition party is alleging.
1,250,000 votes were stolen.
To unpack why the Congress chose this nuclear option, we have Congressman Amitabh Dubey joining us on this episode of Scroll Adda.
Why do we call it vote chori? Because the trust in the ECI and the behavior of the ECI is strongly indicative that they are complicit in this. I think it's widely understood that the CEC and the BJP are aligned at the moment. These are not small itsy-bitsy violations at the polling booth level. These are massive, at-scale problems that can shift election results one way or the other.
All of the allegations that you're raising in Mahadevpura happened at a time when the Congress was in power.
Yeah.
What is stopping, say, your government from investigating what happened? Candidates on the ground are supposed to do their due diligence. Do you think the Congress messed up in not doing that?
We've been asking after the Haryana and Maharashtra election for machine scannable forms and CCTV. What is their reaction? Modify the election rules to deny us CCTV and to say that now it will be deleted after 45 days. Deleted. That means they're destroying evidence.
You're going and telling voters that this election is not going to be a free and fair election. What is the end goal of that?
If you are a vulnerable person in society, you get one chance in 5 years to make your views known by selecting a government of your choice. If that right is under attack, then it is our job, it is our duty to tell them that it is under attack.
Hi, Amitabh.
Hi.
Democracy is in danger?
Democracy has been in danger for some time. I think we all know that. And we're not only talking about the election process, we are talking about all the other institutions, whether it is the Election Commission, whether it's the ED, CBI, the entire paraphernalia of government is now working to support one party and one government. In 2014, when there was a general election, I think we'll all agree it was a free and fair election. There was an incumbent UPA government, there was a challenger in the form of Narendra Modi, and it was a fair contest. He won, and I think we can all agree that the anti-incumbency was hurting them, the UPA, and Modi was gaining because he had a fresh campaign to offer. This was not the case in successive elections, in our opinion. Now, whether you win or lose is not the issue. The issue is that the playing field has to be level, and that the voters get to decide on the basis of their experience for using a free media, free elections, what the next government should look like. And in our view, it is no longer a level playing field. And the entire campaign, the Vote Chori campaign, is just one element to show people that the India that they thought they were part of, the institutional structure, the freedom struggle, the India that was created by the freedom struggle, it's not quite the same. And it's our job to highlight and explain to the people how it's changed.
So tell us how vote chori happens. Give us the elements of vote chori that your party's been alleging for the last month.
So we can start with Rahul Gandhi's presentation. I'll give you a little bit of background. So for some years now, the Congress party and other opposition parties have had a feeling that things are not quite right. There have been stray allegations, there have been random events that cause suspicion. For instance, in Haryana, we had some instances, and you mentioned EVMs, but the focus of our campaign is not EVMs. The focus of our campaign is the electoral roll, which is the basis of Indian citizenship. So let me just make that point. When India became a democracy, and the first election was held in 52, the electoral roll was how we the people became real. Onit Shani has written a whole book about this. She's an academic in Haifa University. And how the democracy became a reality through the electoral roll. After partition, millions of refugees were milling around the country. They felt lost. And the Election Commission at that time, or the people responsible for the elections, had a positive bias. They wanted to be inclusive because this was a new country. They wanted as many people to be on the electoral rolls. So, just like the Supreme Court said recently, they also highlighted the issue of inclusiveness. It was an inclusive attitude. And the new nation was created on the basis of this electoral roll. So we the people became real through the electoral roll. So it's a very important part of our national story. And what our concern is that this electoral roll is now under threat, is now under challenge, and is now being undermined in a very subversive manner. Now, to go back to the brief history of how we got here. Over the past year, firstly, let's look at the Election Commission in recent years.
But before that, I'm going to come to how you guys got to this stage, But I want you to quickly unpack for our viewers, maybe people who haven't seen Rahul Gandhi's press conference
Right.
or are not keeping up with the day-to-day events. I want you to explain what did the Congress research team find that was so egregious for the Mahadevpura constituency that Rahul Gandhi laid out in the press conference on August 7th.
Yeah. So the Congress research team spent 6 months going through one constituency. And why did it take so long?
One assembly constituency.
One assembly constituency in a Lok Sabha constituency. It was a Lok Sabha election, but we looked at an assembly constituency's votes because the EC has refused to give us machine readable rolls. So something that would take 15 minutes to identify on a computer took us 6 months because it was a 7-foot high columns of papers because we had to go through them manually. So we put a team on it to go through it. And what we found was quite astounding.
And why did you pick Mahadevpura?
I think because we had the data. We got the data through RTI. See, the Election Commission has refused to give us that data, but by chance we managed to get our hands on the
When
data.
you say data, you mean electoral rolls?
Yes, electoral. This is all Election Commission data. So we actually, by sheer luck, we got hold of this particular assembly constituency. And so then we decided to go through it because the ECI has not been cooperative at all. And we found that...
So you're saying as opposition party, as a party contesting that election, you don't get electoral rolls?
No, you get, every candidate gets local electoral rolls, but they are not machine readable.
Right.
So to go through lakhs and lakhs of voters is beyond any candidate's capacity. So we as a national party had to put a team on it that would manually do this, and it was a, it wasn't a 2-person team, it was a large team who had to manually go through this data, and it took months and months and months. Unlike, for instance, Anurag Thakur, who miraculously in 1 week managed to get data of 6 or 7 constituencies and do a press conference, which is an entire different story, which we should get to. So it was a manual.
What are you hinting at? You're saying Anurag Thakur got machine readable data from the Election Commission?
Yes, obviously. Either he made it up or he got it from the Election Commission. An Election Commission has refused to give anything to the opposition party. So when we make the allegation ki inki mili bhagat hai, that they are hand in glove, this is obviously one example, very likely example of that happening. How did he manage to get all this data for so many constituencies and then sort through it and identify, yahan pe duplication hai, yahan pe dead voter hai, yahan pe jo bhi hai. Somehow he managed to do it in a week and do a whole press conference. So this is quite a miracle, and we'd love for him to explain how he did it.
Right.
And noticeably, the CEC has not asked him for an affidavit. Right. He's only asked Rahul Gandhi, but Anurag Thakur can present, many constituencies, and no one's interested in...
In fact, in an ironical way, what Thakur did was almost back up the Congress's point by saying that there are errors in the role.
Yeah, I think, frankly, it was a blunder from the BJP point of view, although it was a very positive step from the election system, India's election integrity point of view. So we should thank him, unwittingly or otherwise, that he did the country a service by highlighting more irregularities of the kind that we have been talking about. He thought he was attacking the opposition, but, he aimed somewhere, but he ended up hitting the Election Commission.
Back to Mahadevpura. Just can you give us an overview of the things that the Congress party found? Why you are alleging vote chori?
Yeah. So out of about more than close to 7 lakh voters in this constituency, we found that 1,250,000 were either fake or incorrect voters. We got exact numbers for this. So duplicate voters, this is voters who are in more than one booth, were 11,965. Then fake and invalid addresses, we've seen in the news.
As in there was Amitabh Dubey in booth 3, but there was also Amitabh Dubey in booth 6.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
The same epic, the same voter ID was in more than one booth. The second was fake and invalid addresses. So either it was a completely fake address like 0, which is not an address, or or there was a completely meaningless address. Right? So we actually physically sent people to verify this. This is why it took so long. We actually sent people to verify कि यहाँ पे कौन रहता है, ये अजीब सा address है. Well, obviously a fake address you can't verify, but you can see. But then we also found the third category, which was multiple people at the same booth. 80 people living in one single room. This is the famous, came in the media. And since then in Bihar and elsewhere we found, people have found 300 voters in one house, 3,000 voters in another house. This is the kind of pattern we found. Then there was another category. So duplicated voters about almost 12,000. Fake addresses, invalid addresses, 40,000. Bulk voters in a single address, 10,000 plus. Invalid photos, 4,000. So these are either there was no photo or the photo is tiny, microscopic, and you couldn't make out who the person is.
Which means that when that person goes to vote,
Yeah.
there'll be no way to identify who
Correct.
he or she is, basically.
Exactly.
So it could be anyone going on.
It could be anyone, precisely. And finally, there was misuse of Form 6. And this is a big category, almost 37,000 people. Form 6 is for first-time voters.
New voters, right.
So the bulk of first-time voters will be 18, 19, 20-year-old. And we found, people in their 70s, 80s, 90s. There was a 70-year-old lady we found that Rahul Gandhi mentioned her name. There were other people. So, these were, see, as a citizen, not just as a member of the Congress Party, I would expect some level of irregularities. We know what the country is like. But at this scale and at this bulk, at the level where it could change election outcomes, was shocking. And remember, this is 1 lakh invalid voters in one assembly constituency, where the full number of voters is 6 lakh something. So this is mind-blowing.
So it's like approximately 15%,
Yes.
you could say,
And-
are not genuine voters.
And you know that especially in assembly elections, winning and losing can be done by a much smaller margin. So this was really quite shocking to our team. We went in there expecting to see something, but this was, next level. And we are confident that this is not a unique case, that this is the case across the country in many constituencies. And therefore, we are very suspicious. Now, if the ECI, see, why do we call it vote chori? Because the trust in the ECI and the behavior of the ECI is strongly indicative that they are complicit in this, or at the very least, they have no interest in addressing this issue. And we can get into how and why, but this is the reason we are extremely skeptical of the Election Commission. If this happened 10 years ago, perhaps the Election Commission would have had a much more positive attitude and said, chalo, let's investigate it together, we're going to get into it. And keep in mind that all of this data is held at the Election Commission. What took us 6 months to do, they could do in 10 minutes. They can verify how many duplicate voters there are. They can run, programs on all the data they have. It's all with them, and yet they have chosen not to do it. They have chosen to attack the opposition. They have chosen to make requests that are irrelevant for an affidavit. So why do you need an affidavit? Just go into your own data, check the duplicates, check the fake addresses. Now you might need to do an investigation to see are there multiple people, who's living where. So that would be the second stage. But the first stage can easily be done by the Election Commission without resorting to the kind of press conference we saw, where the Chief Election Commissioner made many dramatic dialogues. Hum matdata ke saath chattan ki tarah khade hain. And, a lot of concern for Behna and Maiya and every female category he could come up with a voter without addressing their rights as citizens. So instead of all the drama-bazi and dialogue-bazi, it would have been much better had he addressed these directly. Many questions were asked by journalists, and he was very selective in answering them. So the question of niyat is very central in our allegation of vote chori. And all the evidence suggests that the Election Commission, and particularly this Election Commissioner, are not interested in addressing the problem that we have so vividly highlighted to them in just one assembly constituency.
You're saying the Congress has lost faith in the Election Commission?
I don't think it's the Congress. You've seen the latest CSDS data on faith in the Election Commission. It's been coming down steadily over the last decade. And I remember in 2019, 2024, it dropped. And now the latest data of 5 states shows that the percentage of people who have no trust has gone up from 5, 10% in states to 20, 30%, which is, this was one of the most trusted institutions of India, along with the armed forces. And now the trust in this Election Commission. And your viewers may not remember, but T.N. Seshan was a Chief Election Commissioner who was one of the people who strongly asserted the independence of the Election Commission. And he very clearly said that he reports to the President, but he does not obey the instructions of the government. He's part of the government, but not subservient to it. Whereas this Election Commission clearly appears to be subservient to and working in coordination with the ruling establishment.
What is the solution for this? So I want to come back. I'm going to just pause the vote chori issues right now, and I want to dig deeper into the Election Commission that you're saying, Amitabh. You're saying the Election Commission is not independent. It's sort of walking to the tune of the BJP and so on. Now, what is this? What is the solution for this? Is the Congress, for example, if it ever comes to power, is it going to change how election commissions are appointed?
No, I mean, this is a conversation that has to be held later. At the moment, we're very focused on saying this is the problem. It's a very serious problem. And it's very clear that the people of India are very receptive to our message. There's a lot of, everyone I speak to, everyone, I'm sure the media has been talking to a lot of people. There's a lot of concern about this because these patterns are unexplained. These are not small itsy bitsy violations at the polling booth level. These are massive, at scale problems that can shift election results one way or the other. And this is only one Vidhan Sabha. So we think the first thing is, so what have we asked the Election Commission for? CCTV footage and machine readable data. Now, you will recall that last year, we've been through a whole process. This is not the first time. We've written letters to the Election Commission. We've had sought meetings with them. We've even had some meetings where they were very intransigent. We've been asking after the Haryana and Maharashtra election for machine scannable forms and CCTV. And what is their reaction? Their reaction is to pass a law, modify the election rules to deny us CCTV footage, which earlier was in theory available,
Right.
and to say that now it will be deleted after 45 days. Deleted, that means they're destroying evidence. Right? Why would they do such a thing in reaction to this? Either don't change anything and just say that no, the existing system is fine, but why are they going the extra mile in the other direction to suppress evidence?
Which again raises your suspicions
Exactly.
about the conduct of the election.
Exactly.
Could you explain to us the Congress's journey? So, the Modi government has been in power for more than a decade now. This is the third term of Mr. Narendra Modi. How did the Congress arrive at what is really a pretty nuclear charge? Like, what is the journey that has been happening over here within the Congress?
So, first we were quite disturbed by the Election Commission's conduct during the 2024 general election. So, Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah were both making very inflammatory comments about Mangal Sutra and Bhains and all not very subtle communal rhetoric. It was very, communal statement, which is clearly against the rules, against the model code of conduct.
Rules.
And instead of addressing that, the Election Commission wrote a letter to the presidents of the BJP and the Congress. Now, poor Mr. Nadda had not been making these statements, and Mr. Kharge had nothing to do with it. And they said that, this is how they're dealing with it. Then the BJP Karnataka came out with a very communal film, or not just a communal film, it was a film alleging that Rahul Gandhi was in cahoot with anti-national forces, completely outside the pale. And they took their own sweet time. They finally had it pulled down, but after it had gotten 1 crore shares. So, it had already resolved in favour of the BJP by the time the Election Commission.
Basically, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So then these were the kinds of, then you remember in Surat, the Congress candidate was disqualified. And all the independents also
in the Lok Sabha
election in 24. And you remember when the votes were counting, the BJP had a score of 1 even before the counting began because Surat was given to them.
Right.
Now, why was Nota not allowed to be there in Surat? Because Nota is supposed to be available. In Indore, where a similar thing happened, where the Congress candidate defected and again a lot of independents left, Nota got 2 lakh votes. So clearly that was a protest vote. So, these decisions which seem...
Nota is basically none of the above, where you choose no candidate as a protest vote. Right.
So Nota became the de facto. So anyway, these are small decisions, but they added up to a lot of concern. One more thing example I'll give you is that both in 19 and in 24, the phasing of the general election was designed, it seemed to us, to favour the BJP. The BJP wanted to gain in Odisha and West Bengal. So a number of election phases in Odisha went from 2 to 4 and in West Bengal from 5 to 7. And this didn't happen in other states. It happened in areas where the BJP wanted to focus and they wanted to deploy the Prime Minister and their top leadership so they could get more campaign time in the states where they felt they had a chance to expand their vote. And in 24 they actually did that. In fact, in both states, they did manage to expand their vote.
So this is actually one thing that I wanted to just put a pin in. Election phases right now are this huge thing. Everybody's talking about them. I think the time of an election has really shot up. I think there would be general elections conducted within days, maybe 2-3 decades earlier. But right now, even state elections take weeks. So one reason that you pointed to is maybe it gives the Prime Minister more time to campaign, and
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, Mr. Modi is a huge vote catcher. Is there anything more though? Is there a connection with vote chori? I've heard connection with vote chori with respect to phases also.
So this is now speculation. So I don't want to make we don't have proof yet. But the more phases you have, the more of your people you can move around. So this is just a suspicion we have. We will, once this thing is
When you
investigated.
say people move around, you mean like fake voters?
Fake
are being
voters,
moved around.
yeah.
So if you're saying that there's a possibility
if-
for more phases, you can move around fake voters.
Exactly. The same person, and this is hypothetical, can move around because we know we have duplicate voters. Now it doesn't mean that same person. So one lady came and she said, मैंने duplicate vote नहीं किया है, तो शायद किसी और ने किया है उनके नाम में. We don't know that. Without CCTV footage, we can't know that. So these are all suspicions we have. But this is a hypothesis. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I want to flag that this is potentially one way where this could be done.
Another thing that I wanted to dig into, Amitabh, was there's something that Mr. Gandhi had raised a few months earlier with respect to Maharashtra. So Mr. Gandhi had raised that a very large number of voters have been added between the assembly elections in Maharashtra and between the Lok Sabha elections in Maharashtra and the assembly elections a few months later, which was more than the number of voters added even in the previous 5 years.
Correct.
Do you want to unpack that for our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I have the article here, but I'll just very briefly. First, he wrote an op-ed about it, and he wrote an op-ed in July, I think. After a lot of the Election Commission's unwillingness to cooperate had become clear. And in his op-ed...
What does that mean? So you guys approached the Election
Commission? No, we have
Commission?
approached many times. In December, there was the Punjab High Court decision in, I think, December. I can give you the exact date, saying you have to share the CCTV details, right? Which are following which, 9 December. Punjab and Haryana High Court says share CCTV footage and Form 17, which Mahmood Pracha, who's a lawyer, had asked for. And so then the ECI and the government amended that rule, right? Then Jairam Ramesh went to the Supreme Court and said that this is undemocratic, etc., etc., etc. It violates the integrity of the election process. That case is still going on. Then Randeep Surjewala goes on 29th of December and asks the ECI for Haryana and Maharashtra rolls. No response. Right. So in December, we've had 3 approaches. On 17th of February, the government, the Supreme Court had said that the selection of the Chief Election Commission in 2023, the Supreme Court said, should involve the LOP, Leader of the Opposition, Prime Minister, and Chief Justice of India. Then the government rushed through a law, removing the Chief Justice of India and putting in a cabinet minister, which in practice is Mr. Amit Shah. So the LOP is always outvoted 2:1. So they rushed through this. They pushed this through on 17th of February. Then, they pushed this through early. On 17th of February, 2 days before this law was going to go to the Supreme Court, they pushed Gyanesh Kumar in as CEC. Rahul Gandhi said that I have not been given the short list of CECs, I've been given a long list, but they still pushed it through. He was outvoted 2:1. And that midnight, he was appointed. He was approved and he was appointed. It's a midnight appointment.
Right.
So this was an unseemly way of pushing through a candidate that they seemed to favour. Now, 1 week later, Mr. Surjewala again goes to the High Court, Delhi High Court, and he says, ECI should give me data, this machine readable. ECI says
Maharashtra.
For Maharashtra and Haryana.
Right.
CEC says go to the state election officers. State election officers say no, CEC has to give the data. So it's like just going round and round, right? So basically they have absolutely no interest in addressing the problem, is what we feel and what the entire opposition feels. So then in June, Rahul Gandhi writes the match fixing article because there had been absolutely no progress in...
So basically, just to unpack Maharashtra, Amitabh, the sort of quote-unquote smoking gun that the Congress points to in Maharashtra is that a very large number of voters were added in these few months, and it seems that correlated with that, the election result turned.
Yeah.
The Congress had done very well in the Lok Sabha, and it actually lost the assembly elections. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Is that so odd though? Because I think, the Hindus done a fact check where it showed that, large number of voters have been added earlier as well. So, again, what I'm pointing to is that you guys have made such a big allegation, but have you all really dug through deep and found out like individual instances like you guys did with Mahadevpura?
So no, we have obviously, we don't have the data for Maharashtra, so we cannot do a Mahadevpura kind of exercise. We were fortunate that we got the data from Mahadevpura and we were able to do it. But that's why we want the Election Commission to give us the data. You see, the issue is that we believe that this spike is correlated with outcomes. That because of the spike, there was a big surge in favor of the NDA in the Vidhan Sabha versus the Lok Sabha, and this needs to be investigated.
But what are your theories? So when there's a big spike, are you saying that this
We believe that it was concentrated in certain seats and booths,
Right.
and that the BJP and NDA got a more favorable result in those booths. That is our claim.
And these new voters are voting for BJP? Is that what your
we
theory
have,
is?
We want to understand why this is happening. We have detected a correlation. Now, I can have a theory about it, you can have a theory about it, but we have detected a correlation. We've detected a surge and we have detected a correlation, and we want to understand it more. So therefore, we have asked for the machine readable rolls and the CCTV footage,
And explain
which
to
is
us
being
this,
denied to us.
Explain to us this booth thing. So why does the BJP, as per your allegation, only do it at certain booths or certain constituencies?
So let me put it this way. If you want to get a favorable outcome, but you don't want to get caught
Right.
doing it, you'll do it strategically and selectively. So, for instance, just hypothetically, if there's a close election, you will pick those booths which you can flip based on the history of those booths.
Right.
Anyone can do the analysis and figure out which are the close booths where you can do this. Which are the constituencies which are more vulnerable? Which are the constituencies you want to focus on where the contest is close? So you will do it strategically. So that's why when Rahul Gandhi in his presentation, he said that India won, the Modi government or the NDA won in the general election by 25 seats. His basic point is that had you flipped 25 seats, then maybe the arithmetic of coalition would have been very different. So you will do it strategically. So that is why we are not saying that, someone is sitting down and rigging the entire election. We are talking about selective manipulation. And there's a lot of academic evidence also to back up the argument about selective. So why would you take a big risk and do large scale rigging if you can get a favorable outcome through selective manipulation? So this is our suspicion. Again, without the rolls, without the CCTV data, we can't say it for sure. And so the question is, why are they denying it? Why are they so keen to not do a proper investigation when the largest opposition party and other allied parties, you remember there was a press conference with all the India bloc asking for the data, which is yet to turn up. But of course, the BJP has access to that data because Anurag Thakur has access to that data. So, it's a very interesting question.
When you're saying again, this the BJP can fix certain booths and constituencies, BJP and its supporters will always say that then why does the Congress or the opposition win at all? Why is there a Mamata Banerjee government in Bengal? Why is there a Congress government in Karnataka? Why doesn't BJP have a outright majority in the Lok Sabha right now? What are your answers to that?
So obviously the BJP doesn't want to go and, like I said, it's not that the election being 100% rigged. It is being manipulated, is our suspicion.
It's not like the BJP some god sort of
No, it's
figure
not that
just,
saying कि मैं अपने आप को 30,000 दूंगा, इसको मैं 15,000 दूंगा. That is
more
not
complex than that.
It is that, see, there are 3 stages where you can manipulate an election. One is in registration, one is in voter turnout, and one is in the actual voting. Now, EVM allegations and the actual voting, we are not focusing on that. Our campaign is not about that. It is about voter registration, which is what's happening in Bihar right now through the SIR, the selective deletion of voters. And then that helps you in if you delete the other party's supporters, then that obviously helps you. Then there is who is allowed into the voting booth. Not everyone has a voter ID. Some people come with their Aadhaar, some people say, are they on the list, are they not on the list? So the polling official has some leeway. So then does the polling official do a fair job, or does the polling official not do a fair job? So that is the second level at which there can be manipulation. So there are these. So we are primarily talking about registration at this point of time, and if you have fake voters or you are removing authentic voters, this is where the game is being played at the moment. So this doesn't mean that you are completely determining the outcome of the election. You are strategically attempting to shape the election and shift a critical number of seats this way or that way. So Haryana, for instance, I think if Congress party lost by 7 seats. Now, if you're a smart manipulator and you want to manipulate the Haryana election, you'll focus on 7, 8, 9 seats where you know it's a close contest.
Right.
So again, this is a hypothetical. I can't tell you for sure that they did that, but this is a very strong suspicion that something like this is being done. And again, if we are wrong, we'd be delighted to be proved wrong, but we can only be proved wrong by someone looking at the data, and they're not sharing the data.
And Amitabh, you brought up the fact that you're not looking at EVMs right now. So I want to push a bit deeper into that. Why aren't you guys looking at EVMs? Because you guys made such a big song and dance about EVMs a year back, a couple of years back. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has raised this many, many times. But now it seems you guys now are focusing more on voter registration. So what's happening is now, are EVMs now, are they fine now for the Congress?
EVMs have always been a topic of political conversation. In 2009, the BJP alleged that the Congress and UPA had won because of EVM manipulation. 2009, Mr. Advani himself made that allegation. In between, BJP people have also, Subramanian Swamy, etc., have made comments about that. There have always been questions about EVMs because an EVM is a black box, right? The German Constitutional Court banned EVMs in Germany because they said that the voter has no way of knowing what happens to their votes because it's a black box, and their Constitutional Court said this is not acceptable. We have not had a similar view, but there have been questions, and in the Haryana election there were questions about whether EVMs with high battery levels were disproportionately favouring the BJP, implying that they may have been switched or something.
Right.
Nothing was proved, but questions were raised. The fact is that although the ECI claims that EVMs are not tamperable, it hasn't been proved. There has never been an open hackathon, right, where they give someone an EVM, say, okay, show us how it can be hacked. They've issued challenges, but not under the conditions where you can do it. So that's just the background. But we don't have evidence that the EVM has been hacked, right? We are proceeding on this because on this we have evidence that registration fraud is happening or is very likely happening, and that this is something that could affect the course of the elections. So as a responsible party, we can voice our suspicions. You know, our leaders have sometimes said maybe we should have ballot boxes. That's an opinion. But here we have evidence that we think that the Election Commission needs to address, and they are not addressing it.
But then were you irresponsible when you raised it earlier?
No, there are people raise questions.
You guys have raised it a lot earlier, including Rahul Gandhi, right?
No, it's because they have not been, again, it's because they have not been upfront. The easy way for the ECI to put the EVM narrative to rest would be to have a hackathon, say anyone from the world or any Indian can come and show us if this can be hacked. And if they fail, or if they do it in conditions that are not replicable in the booth, then fine, but they haven't done that. But since there's no decisive answer to the EVM hacking allegation, we are not going to focus on that because we are proceeding on a more evidence-based track.
Do you think though this would cause confusion in the minds of voters? The fact that the Congress was earlier focusing on EVMs, today is focusing on voter registration.
No, we have never done an EVM campaign.
Right.
Individuals have voiced their discomfort. That's a completely different thing.
You're saying the Congress has never done an anti-EVM campaign?
We have not launched it, nothing like, we haven't done press conferences and saying that, you know, EVMs are fraudulent and all that. We have not done that to the best of my knowledge. This is a campaign that's being led by our leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha. It's an entirely different campaign. Here the party is putting its full weight behind this campaign. It's very different from voicing discomfiture and asking questions.
One thing that I wanted to dig into, Amitabh, is the nuts and bolts of how a party would approach this. So, couple of things. Firstly, I think that you raised this scale point. You think it's never happened at this scale.
That's the shocking part of it.
But I think bits of it have always happened, right? Like, for example, things like addresses being wrong, quote unquote wrong. I think voter rolls have always had those errors. Am I not wrong?
Well, I mean, O.P. Rawat, who's a former CEC, said very clear, his time there were no zero addresses, right? This is something that came in after his time, he said it. So there are still many questions that even other chief election commissioners and other election commissioners have raised questions about some of these things. So there's something is off here for sure. See, the issue is
for the zero addresses, the Election Commission says that there are so many people who do not have permanent homes in India, and I think that does make a bit of sense to me at least.
Yeah, no, but a chief election commissioner already has said that in his time they did not have any such system.
Right.
And then you have to explain how 3,000 people can be have one address, or 290 people can have one address. There's like 500 news reports, including from Scroll and other publications, showing hundreds of people in one address. Now, I can explain, any single address periodically could have 5, 6, 7 people coming and going, right, over a period. 100, 200, 300. It's very strange. See, each thing individually, you can have an explanation, array, it's because of migrants, this, that. But when you add it up and it's 1 lakh out of 6 lakh, and then it's a serious problem. The reason this campaign has caught attention of the people of India, the media, and frankly even people in the BJP, is the scale. Everyone knew that, at some level of irregularities there will be. But at a scale in one Vidhan Sabha constituency that could completely change the election, it takes all of the Election Commission's claims. I have a document here where, let me if I find, this is basically the Election Commission's letter to the Congress Party on 24th of December, saying, against what we had said, and they said, the Commission firmly believes that the inclusive, healthy, pure and transparently prepared electoral roll is the foundation of free, fair and credible election. Therefore, the Commission takes out all efforts to make the electoral roll pure, healthy and inclusive. Now, we have seen the reality, whether it is Bihar with the special intensive revision, or whether what happened in Mahadevpura, or as we suspect in many other places. So, this is a fiction. It's a complete fiction, and the Election Commission is acting as if this is reality. So, the Election Commission is like, in a parallel universe, and this was very clear from the CEC's press conference, where he made many dramatic statements, where he did a lot of strong assertions, but failed to answer most of the questions that the media was asking in a perfectly reasonable manner. So, there's some kind of disjoint, and it can only be if he has political backing to do this.
So, you're saying the Chief Election Commission is being supported by the BJP completely in this?
I mean, firstly, the BJP has not said anything, except for Anurag Thakur's very helpful contribution from our point of view.
Right.
And I think it's widely understood that the CEC and the BJP are aligned at the moment.
This is something that Rahul Gandhi said, your party said that they will take action against the election commissioner if and when you guys come to power.
No, we will take action if there have been violations of electoral law.
But what does action mean here?
No, action, whatever is on the rule books for,
Right.
I imagine, I'm not a lawyer, but I imagine rigging elections is illegal, and some certain laws.
You're talking about putting an election commissioner in jail.
No. We have to first find out what is happening.
But say the punishment is jail, you're talking about putting an election commissioner in jail.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the punishment is. But if someone is getting fake voters,
you don't need to be a lawyer to know the punishment for a lawyer.
Right. No, it could be.
We're not that.
I don't want to get into that.
Because why I want to push on that is, look, I mean, the one of the fundamentals of a democracy is peaceful change of power.
Correct.
Right. Now, if the opposition party is saying that they will jail top bureaucrats, or let's not use the word jail because that's an incendiary word, they will take legal action against top bureaucrats, and that was the bureaucrat being the election commissioner. That is really raising the stakes, right? That would mean that the stakes for the current dispensation to lose power are really, really high, right? If Mr. Ganesh Kumar is going to face legal action for what he's going to do, that's almost going to incentivize him to not have a free and fair election.
The CEC doesn't. All he has to do is share the electoral rolls and the CCTV footage then we can have an investigation. Now, suppose if the ECR tomorrow was to say, we're going to do a proper investigation, we want all of you to cooperate in this investigation, and we will share the data and let's take it forward together, then that solves the problem. Now, if there has been voter manipulation, I mean, I'm not saying that the CEC is behind the voter manipulation. What I'm saying is that the CEC is not allowing an investigation, and this is very suspicious. Now, whoever is behind the voter manipulation will need to be prosecuted if it is proved that there is voter manipulation, right? So, we're not saying that this individual will be put in jail or this individual will face legal action. We are saying that whoever is responsible for what we suspect to be criminal acts should be prosecuted according to the law, and the ECI needs to cooperate with us in this effort, and we will cooperate with the ECI if they give us the data, which they have, which they gave to Anurag Thakur 6 days after Rahul Gandhi's press conference.
So why can't they give it to you?
So why can't they give it to us? They can set up again, this is my personal view, they can set up a procedure where all party members can designate people to look at the data, whatever, the parties agree with the ECI. The Election Commission himself said that all the political parties were born in the ECI, so how can the ECI do bhed bhav among his children? So, I think while that's a slightly patronizing view, it's also a correct view that we are all linked in this. So why is he not working with all the political parties to resolve this problem rather than making dramatic announcements that sound like they're coming from South Bloc?
And you said, which is true, which is Mr. Gandhi is leading a vote chori campaign. In fact, he's holding rallies in Bihar right now. This to me is very interesting, just as a political journalist, that you guys are a political party which is part of the system, and you're going and telling voters that this election is not going to be a free and fair election. What is the end goal of that? Like, what is the end goal of the Congress convincing, say, a young Bihari man that the system is rotten?
We are alerting them to what we think is going on, and we want them to be aware and to take action to make sure that their voting rights are not endangered, to take this whole process very seriously, and to be alert and to participate and make sure that their vote is protected. If we believe something is happening, it's well within our rights to go and tell people what we think is happening and that their democratic rights are being assaulted, because without the vote, so obviously, if you are a vulnerable person in society, you don't have connections in high places, you get one chance in 5 years to make your views known by selecting a government of your choice. If that right is under attack through all of these irregularities, then it is our job, it is our duty to tell them that it is under attack, that they need to use basically, especially if you're a SC, ST, EBC, OBC minority, the more vulnerable parts of society.
So you think the Bihar SIR is mainly targeting these demographics that you laid out?
It is likely to disproportionately affect those people because they are the people who are less documented. These are the people who are more likely to be migrants going to other states for work, particularly in this season when the SIR is being carried out. These are the people who, don't have the documents. And the documents they do have, ration card, voter ID, voter card, ration ID, anyway, these
Aadhaar,
2, 3, Aadhaar, of course, Aadhaar. These are the documents they are most likely to have, which the Election Commission was refusing to accept until the Supreme Court forced them to. And this is another, this is something also, why does the Supreme Court have to force them to do it?
So you think the Supreme Court's recent ruling getting the thing to do Aadhaar for the revisions, that will really help?
I mean, it certainly allows a lot more people to submit their forms who would otherwise have a much higher risk of being excluded. So I think it's a very positive step. Everyone was saying from the beginning that Aadhaar should be allowed, especially because Aadhaar is used to generate some of the other forms that are acceptable. So why can't they accept Aadhaar, which is the one form that the vast majority of poor Indians actually have?
In fact, they're not even taking previous voter rolls, which is really unusual, right? And
the EC was going on about linking voter ID with Aadhaar earlier. So if Aadhaar is so significant to exercise your electoral choice, then why not accept it for the special intensive revision? It's very puzzling. And the only possible explanation is that they want to disproportionately rule out the voters who are more likely to vote for the opposition.
I want to dig further into the implications of the Vote Chori campaign. Let's assume there is a scenario where the Election Commission does not listen to you guys, right? The SIR goes ahead, Bihar goes ahead, nothing changes, right? So we have a scenario where you guys have raised some very serious allegations of the vote not being free, and it continues to not remain free. In that situation, one of the almost logical outcomes would be you guys boycotting the vote. Is that right?
So again, party has not made any decision. India Alliance has not made any decision. Right now, the focus.
But just logically, like why
Yeah.
would the Congress
I'll
take
address
part
that.
in an election which you're saying is not free?
Right now, the focus on generating the maximum vote for the opposition alliance in Bihar, which is why we're doing the campaign, which is why we've got all our leaders on the ground. We've got not just all our leaders, the India Alliance leaders are also on the ground, because the way to counter selective rigging, if it is happening, is by having a big movement of votes that makes it very difficult for you to do that. Now, what happens in the future, I don't know. I'm not going to be one of the people making the decision in the India Alliance for what our future strategy is. My personal view, whenever you go into history and look at boycotted elections, it doesn't work well for the opposition. Whether you look at Bangladesh or any other country,
It boomerangs in the
it
opposition.
boomerangs, because then the ruling party gets like 90% of the seats, and then they can do whatever they want, and tomorrow they could change the constitution if they want. So I think it would be my view is it would be a mistake, but then I'm not going to be one of the people.
Your personal view is that any move to boycott elections would boomerang on the opposition. It would give the BJP.
It could boomerang on the
Yeah,
opposition.
it could boomerang.
But the opposition sit down and plan its strategy, and it depends on how it's done. So this is my personal view.
But no, I think there's a lot of strength in that view. As you pointed out, Bangladesh, when the opposition boycotted elections, it came back to bite them, right? But then again, just again personally, don't you see a bit of a contradiction if things keep on building up to a stage where you do actually manage to convince a very large number of people, which is what right now is what your party is endeavoring to do, that the elections are fixed, that almost there will be a hope, there will be an expectation that why is the Congress taking part in a fixed match?
So we, again,
because that's logical, right? Like if I know the cricket match is fixed, I'm not going to take part in it, right?
So right now, my understanding of our approach is to sensitize people to what's going on. And it is also my belief, this is again my personal view, that there are enough people in the BJP and in the NDA who also value India's democracy. So we also want to create pressure within the BJP, right? We all know that the BJP under Modi and Shah is a somewhat different animal from the BJP before that. But that BJP has not disappeared.
Right.
So one can hope that there might be a conversation within the BJP also that perhaps a different route is preferable.
You're almost going to appeal to the old BJP.
I mean, this is my view,
Right.
that I'm saying this as an analyst, right?
Of course.
We know that they have a lot of MPs and MLAs who believe in Indian democracy and want to proceed. They may have their own views that are different from our views, but they believe in the system. Then there may clearly some people who don't believe in the system.
Right.
So I think our goal has to be to generate enough pressure that they change their ways. And that the CEC also listens to the people, because the CEC is a creature of the Indian Union. It is not a creature of the BJP or the ruling dispensation.
And you're saying in this whole scenario, you're saying Mr. Modi does not believe in the system at all.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it. Judging from Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah, I would say both of them together have a very different way of doing politics, and there are certain limits that others would not cross that they in the past have crossed without thinking about it. And this could well be. I mean, ask yourself if you're someone watching this podcast, is if they could get away with it, do you think they would do it? Given their record.
What's the answer to that?
The answer is, I think they would do anything if they could get away with it,
Right.
which perhaps other BJP leaders would not.
Right. I want to tone it down a bit and come back to the Congress party, as an organization. So, the way I understand it is that before the elections, voter rolls are given to candidates, which would include Congress. And parties and candidates do conduct due diligence. I mean, it goes back to right since the start of Indian democracy. Probably it happens in other countries. Voter roll contestations are not really new; they do happen, and candidates on the ground are supposed to do their due diligence. Do you think the Congress messed up in not doing that in Mahadevpura when such a large scale of what you claim of fraud that was happening? How did it pass? How did it pass by under your noses?
See, the issue is that you can ask these questions. These are fair questions.
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that this does not take away from anything that you've said against the Election Commission. I completely agree that at the end of the day, it's the Election Commission that is responsible for voter rolls, right? But right now, you are on Adda. So I'm going to ask you this question.
So look at how much effort it took us when we decided to deploy all of our energy into one constituency. It took us 6 months to go through this voter list, right? So it's very difficult for a candidate who's in the middle of a campaign, who is busy reaching out to every mohalla, talking to people, getting their message out, etc. In the heat of the campaign, to sit there and do this kind of forensic accounting. So you can do sort of like, acha maine suna hai over here, this, that, and you can investigate randomly. But when you're fighting a campaign, you are so focused on the campaign that it's very difficult to go through these things, especially if these changes are being made over time, quietly. So in theory, yes, every party should keep an eye on the voter roll. But in practice, it becomes very difficult to do this kind of an exercise at the level of the candidate. And we had to go to the level of the party to actually discover all of these flaws. And when it's happening at scale, it's very difficult for someone at the local level to track this.
So, just something that I can tell you is that, I have been told by other members of the India Alliance that we are not that worried about this in our states, because it seems that they are more confident of doing this at the local level than maybe the Congress was in Karnataka. And you're right that it's a big exercise, especially at the assembly level. But I think if you sort of dig down at the booth level, then there are a few hundred people, and then you have a couple of booth level workers who will just go around the houses seeing that. So I mean, again, this is not taking away from your charge, of these errors being there in the voter roll. I totally get that. I acknowledge that, but I mean, both can be true, that you guys also maybe didn't have the organization that at least should have caught some of this.
So, firstly, Samajwadi Party, Aam Aadmi Party have made similar complaints. Aam Aadmi about New Delhi constituency.
But Aam Aadmi Party actually did a lot before the Delhi elections.
But do you think that Aam Aadmi Party in New Delhi had a strong organization or not? They did.
I would think so, yeah.
And yet, all of these irregularities that they claim happened. Now, I don't know who said this off the record, but it's easy to say that until you've done your own investigation. I think as things come out, they may change their minds.
I think, Aam Aadmi Party is a very good thing to raise up, because I think they actually did do the legwork. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a gap between effort and outcome. But I would say the Aam Aadmi Party did sort of hit the road before the Delhi elections, try and get its voters in.
New Delhi is the most important seat for Aam Aadmi Party, right? And yet, at the end of the election, they had 10 complaints about it, saying that this violation, that violation, this violation, that. Was it addressed? No, it wasn't addressed. So I don't think this is a Congress only.
You're saying issue. That, I mean, beyond a point, it's not a party organization.
At this scale, it cannot be a party organization thing. See, a party organization thing, I could understand if there was like 300 here and 200 there, 1 lakh in one Vidhan Sabha. So the fact is that all of these questions would be answered if the Election Commission shared the data, right? You can keep trying to say, the Congress party should do this or some other party should do that. It's a responsibility of the Election Commission. And with such serious questions being raised, you have to ask, why are they acting in an evasive way rather than acting in a positive way? What are they hiding? What are they hiding from? This is the question. If it is just the fault of, say, the Congress party, that can be proved in 15 minutes by making a list of the seats that the Congress party contested and other parties contested, and saying, see, these errors are only in your parties, end of story. But they're not doing that. They're being evasive, they're hiding. What are they hiding? This is the important question. And why are they acting like this?
The other thing that I wanted to come to with respect to Mahadevpura specifically is that, as you would know, and maybe, many of our viewers would know, the Election Commission really does not have any manpower of its own, right? It's got the CECs on top, but the manpower that it actually uses is state government employees. And as it so happens, all of the allegations that you're raising in Mahadevpura happened at a time when the Congress was in power, right?
Yeah.
Which is a very unusual system. So these these state government employees who supposedly reported to your state government were fixing elections on behalf of the Election Commission?
Well, firstly, they report to the Election Commission in this process, but
that's a very temporary
Yeah,
thing. I mean,
but
their careers depend on the state government. That's how it works in
the
practice.
first point I will say is that the Congress government came in a few months before the
Right.
general election, right? So that is also a fact. So a lot of this would have been done under a BJP government in this particular case, because it's not that the roles were fixed in
Right.
those 2 months, 3 months, whatever
You're
it is.
saying the previous government
Yes, there was a
did-
previous
could-
government
could have done a lot of that.
could have done a lot of that. But the issue is that the question is, how was it done? Now we have to investigate it, right? This is the issue. You could say, oh, it was this government or that government, but the fact is that these things are visible and we have to understand how they happened. So again, I think these are all perfectly fine questions, but they're missing the larger point, which is that there's a very serious question now.
I get that, but I actually want to concentrate on the smaller point.
Right.
We've got the larger
Right.
point again. I
Right.
think we're in agreement on that. But again, for example, you have the CEO of Karnataka, the Election Commission head in Karnataka state. Again, he's an IAS officer under the state government. He's sending out stinkers against Rahul Gandhi. Do you think again that's a political trick you guys are missing? Like, for example, just to take an example, this would not maybe happen in West Bengal, right? This would not happen in West Bengal. I think, in fact, right now as we speak, there is a contestation going on over a future SIR in West Bengal, and the government there is quite cognizant of this very unique Indian federal structure where the Election Commission has to, its ears and hands and legs are actually the state government, right? So is that a trick that you guys are missing?
See, I'm not aware of what the CEO of Karnataka is saying or not saying. But again, we can make all of these points, but they're getting away from the main point. The main point is 1 lakh fake voters. Now, how they got there, how they didn't get there is the subject of an investigation. Who was responsible? Was it the state government officials? Was it done somewhere else? Was it a handful of officials? Was it a lot of officials? These are questions that are subject of investigation. Tomorrow, if you find out that the entire state government officialdom was involved, then you can say that what was the state government doing. But we don't even know how all of this has happened, and we need to understand it. So all of these questions can be asked, but in my view, they are distractions from the critical question that the election system that was seen as a very solid system with a few weaknesses here and there seems to have very fundamental weaknesses, seems to have very fundamental errors that could completely undermine the meaning of democracy unless they are fully investigated in a proper way and not treated as some kind of a joke, as is being done currently by the Election Commission of India.
What is stopping, say, your government from investigating what happened in Mahadevpura? You guys have the full force of the police.
So that may well happen. I'm not privy to what the Karnataka government is doing, but they may do it.
Police is
and
a
if they
state
do
subject.
it, so all of these are options. But I think it is preferable if it's a national issue. We've already identified the local issue and we suspect it's a national issue. So the Election Commission of India has to investigate. Now, these other options are available to us. I'm sure we can do police investigations, we can file cases, etc., etc. But all in due course, I feel. This is a decision that the party will make and the opposition alliance will make.
Final question, Amitabh. Again, I want you to put on your analyst hat. Is there some risk in the Congress taking up this campaign? Because let me tell you, I mean, there are many scenarios. In a democracy, especially in India, the largest country in the world. It's so large. There are so many options that can you can never predict. So one option is, yes, everybody is convinced of vote chori. The Election Commission becomes penitent, and all your issues get solved, and everything happily ends ever after. Another less suboptimal outcome from the Congress point of view is that you guys raise these issues, and maybe a large number of voters see you as a party that is crying wolf. It's a crybaby party. They're saying that they're not going to win. Hence, they are saying that the system is rigged, nachna jane angan teda kind of system. Is that one possibility that you guys are gaming for? That you guys are like, at least, like you guys are like playing for? Like at least making, a prediction for that it could blow up in your faces?
No, look, it's very clear what we are trying to do is we see a very serious problem and we are bringing it to the people's attention. Because we believe the playing field should be level and we believe that the voters
The thing is, the
understand.
only person who would bring this to the fore is a party that thinks it's not going to win.
No,
right?
we
Is
have
that
won
a
elections
possibility?
also.
Right.
We have won elections. We did much better than expected in the general election. So it's not a question of winning and losing. It's a question of free and fair elections. So you can win if the election is not free and fair, if there's a big movement in your favor. But that is not what the country signed up for. That's what the voters of India have signed up for. That's not what the founding fathers envisioned. So we are trying to take it back to the vision of the founding fathers, which is of a level playing field and a neutral election commission that's a neutral umpire. It's not in the pocket of the government. Just like all the other institutions, whether it's investigative institutions, whether it's large chunks of the mainstream media, in the pockets of this government. So this is part of a larger campaign, electoral bonds. This is part of a larger campaign to defend the institutions of this country, and it's part of our ideological framework. This is the India that our forefathers fought for. The freedom struggle was about a certain vision of India. This is a complete undermining of that. So I think this is not a question, this is not reducible to, will we get more votes or less votes? Yes, as an election fighting machine in Bihar, we want to get more votes. And if this issue is something that can generate more votes amongst all the others, fine. But this is a much deeper issue for us. It's about
it's a larger issue for the soul of the country.
Exactly. It's a very ideological, it's a fundamental issue for why we are in politics and why they are in politics, and how their vision is undermining our vision that we believe the rest of the people of this country share. So it's an ideological battle. I think these electoral calculations are secondary to it. And I'm not just saying that. You can go ask any Congress person or anyone in the opposition, and this issue is now a higher level issue than just winning and losing.
On that note, Amitabh, thank you so much for joining us on Adda.
My pleasure.
Thank you everyone for watching. Remember, subscribe to Scroll's YouTube channel, contribute to Scroll so that we can keep media free. And third, if you like to listen to an audio version of this podcast, you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts from: Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Signing out.